The rape trial of Dominique Pellico and 50 other men resumed in Avignon, France today. On Wednesday, the victim, Giselle Pellico, gave her testimony in court, expressing deep humiliation over some defense lawyers' portrayal of her during the hearing. She criticized the defense for suggesting she was complicit in the abuse. In her words, "I have felt humiliated since stepping into this courtroom. I am being called an alcoholic and someone who becomes Mr. Pellico's accomplice when intoxicated. I was in a comatose state and the videos will prove this. I never, even for a single second, gave my consent to Mr. Pellico or those other men." Her 71-year-old ex-husband admitted to drugging her with sedatives, rendering her unconscious so that he and others could rape her. The act went on for nearly a decade. Judges are today cross-examining two defendants in both the presence of Dominique and Giselle. Ms. Pellico insisted on the public trial in an attempt to expose her former husband and the men he's accused of inviting to rape her in a small village in southern France. The VOA's Lisa Bryant is in Paris for us. Lisa, great to see you. This is a trial never before seen. Giselle is risking it all, showing real pictures that depict the horrors she's gone through, apart from the women in the village where this all happened. How much support is she receiving from the rest of France?
She's receiving a lot of support. Last Saturday, there were mass demonstrations with thousands of people who had gathered essentially to support her, not just women, but also men. And the broader sense is, that she's been incredibly brave in deciding to make this trial incredibly public, to be out there talking to the press. So generally, I think the public is definitely behind her.
Yeah, and she was in court yesterday where those pictures, about 27 of them, were exhibited. I understand it didn't get quite the reaction she was hoping for. I mean, she said later she was being humiliated in court. So talk to us about that. What happened, with the exhibition of those pictures and, the reactions that she got?
Right. These were 27 pictures that apparently had her in compromising positions and appeared to show that she was awake. She knew about this, she had asked for her daughter to leave the courtroom, presumably because she didn't want her to be hurt. And so she was angry about this because she said, look, the allegations were that she was drugged, was not aware of her actions. This is what she says. And at least some of these photos suggested that she was aware, and some of the defense, some of the guys who were among the defendants are saying, well, we never knew that that she was drugged, and we thought we were playing a sex game. And so I think that this was an attempt by the defense, of some of the defendants at least, to suggest that, she might have been aware and that it could have been a sex game. And she says she was absolutely not aware of any of this, and that in fact that this was trying to push the blame from the perpetrators, the alleged perpetrators of these sexual acts, to her as a defendant. So that's what happened there, and she was very angry about that.
Yes, and one of the reasons why she wanted this trial to go public is so that the accused could be known by, the community, the society itself. Now, many of them apologized to her in court yesterday, but her husband, who admitted to being a rapist, has he shown any signs of remorse? Has he apologized to her?
Yes, he has. I mean, he says, he said that he loved her, he still loves her, that she didn't deserve this, and that they had a wonderful marriage, which seemed to be the case, superficially, until he was arrested. However, he also says that the reason why he he has sexual perversions, as he suggested that was the case, was because he himself had been sexually abused as a child. So I think the sense was that he was trying to blame it at least according to her and members of her family. He was trying to blame this on his own, and certainly women's rights activists. He was trying to blame this on his own problems, that he himself had had a tortured childhood, etc. And at least for some of the activists, it just wasn't flying.
It wasn't fine, but in a way, Lisa, he does have a point. I mean, when a child does go through something as traumatizing as that, it tends to repeat itself later on in adulthood. But let's talk about her daughter. And you talked about, her being asked to leave, that's of course by her mother, asked to leave the courtroom when those pictures were being displayed. We really haven't talked about how this trial or the knowledge of what happened to her mother is impacting on her.
So the daughter, who is called Caroline, has started. Apparently, it seemed to be a very close family. I mean, the guy Dominique Pellicot, who's the accused, was a grandfather. So I think that the daughter. I mean, this has been a huge shock for every member of the family. She's actually started a kind of group just to raise awareness of this kind of chemical, abuse where people are drugged. And this has been an issue for other women, not necessarily just for sexual abuse. So she's trying to, I guess, start this. She's already started this association. I guess the idea, like with her mother, is that it's really important to raise awareness, to go out in public, even if you are humiliated or it's embarrassing to do this. And it's your intimate life. And so she's done this. One interesting thing, and aside to what you had just said about, a lot of people who have been abused as children go on and abuse themselves as adults. I have no expertise in this, but it was interesting to hear this question also raised and responded to by a women's rights activist who said, I guess statistically, the numbers, more women are abused than men, and you aren't seeing a whole lot of women rapists. So that was just one response to that question, although it's not my expertise at all.
Yeah, but thanks for attempting it, Lisa. Appreciate that. And the rape happened between 2011 and 2020. That's 9 years of trauma, 9 years of humiliation for her. I don't know how she can ever get her mind out of that mind space of what has happened, not knowing that within this block of time, she had no idea what was going on with her, but she has these pictures, these videos that depict what was going on, and she really had no idea. So let's talk about the healing process for her. Has she talked about that already?
I think part of the healing process for her was being so frank to coming out with it. But she says it's going to be a long time. I think the same thing for her family. And it's raised in France a lot of soul searching in general. Obviously, the question of sexual violence, like anywhere else in the world, is not new to France. It's been an issue, but also by experts, because she, as you had noted, she had these memory lapses because of the drugs. She didn't know what had happened to her, and she was losing her hair, and she thought she might have Alzheimer's. She's 72 years old now, and a lot of people are also wondering. She did go to try and seek treatment, and experts are saying, like, how could this have fallen through the cracks? How come we couldn't have diagnosed this before? So I think she's going through her own sort of healing process, and it's going to be a lot of work. But I think this is a broader national discussion that goes beyond women or men who have been abused, but also dealing with also experts in the medical community and why they weren't able to detect potential signs.
And whether or not she wins this trial, it's been a landmark, for France. And I'm seeing from the pictures as she was walking into, the courthouse, people applauding her, because people really haven't seen this before. We also haven't seen it this part of the world. Around the world, I mean, this will set a precedence for, many other cases. How would it change things, do you think, in France going forward?
We'll see. I mean, this is not the first time, as we were discussing, about sexual violence against women. And there's been, when the Me Too movement was really sort of raging a few years ago, I mean, there were a lot of demonstrations, lots of radio shows, talk shows, TV shows, or whatever. And so it seems to come up, and there have been cases involving, very prominent people, politicians, actors, and in fact, it's got nothing to do with this particular trial, but there will be a trial coming up of a very famous actor, Gérard Depardieu, starting this month, and he's been accused of sexual attacks against women. So it might be interesting, a very different trial, but to see how this one will play out. But yeah, it's captured, as you've noted, international attention. So it's clearly something that resonates not just in France, but in many other places.
Lisa, thanks again for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.